Hey, this is Steve, and you are listening to the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast, a part of the BS Podcast Network. Enjoy the show.
In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
It's not a from the F to the R to the O to the N to the T. It's just a boyfriend's out of house. Oh, that's what she said, read. It's OPP, some other people's, but you get it. There's no room for relationships, it's just room to hit it. How many brothers out there know just what I'm getting at? Who think it's wrong cause I was splitting and co-hitting that? Well, if you do, that's OPP and you're not down with it. But if you don't, here's your membership. Get down with OPP. Yeah, you know me. Get down with OPP. Yeah, you know me. Get down with OPP. Yeah, you know me. Who's down with OPP? Every last on me. Get down with OPP. Yeah, you know me. Get down with OPP. Yeah, you know me. Get down with OPP. Yeah, you know me.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today is Thursday, June 29th, and this is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Cotillo. I have with me Mr. Sal Lito. How's it going, Sal?
It's going pretty good. I'm coming to you live from the dining room tonight, Kevin.
Whoa. What happened there? They actually let you in the house?
Yeah, well, nobody's home, which is good. So I climbed through the window, and I
nice.
switched over last week from local cable Wi-Fi, which is Optimum, to Verizon. I switched over to Fios, and I got this 100 over 100 MP this and blah, blah, blah that, and it doesn't reach my friggin' basement. I don't know what the hell. I switched over. They promised me the world.
Yeah, see, that's just all about the router. I think that has nothing to do with the speed, you realize. It's just the router.
Oh, I know it has nothing to do with speed. I'm just saying, like, they dazzle you with all these wonderful things that they're going to give you. But it's their router, and I'm thinking that the placement of the router is the issue. But I was told it had to be placed there. So I'm going to need to get a booster so that I can continue to come live from the basement.
This is very entertaining. I'm sure our fans are loving this episode already. We do have Steve Marcus with us as well. How's it going, Steve?
It's going pretty good. I got to say, that was probably the most energetic replay of a cable modem installation that I've ever heard in my entire life. And I'm just happy to say that I can hear Sal in all of his glory right now. And you're coming through loud and clear, buddy.
Hey, I'm glad somebody's happy I'm here.
So I'm unhappy that there's no one else here. It's just three of us tonight. I apologize for that to just about everyone listening. So it's
The guy
just
tells us, Steve, hey, the three of us could do the show. We don't need a guest. And the first thing he does is come on and insult us for not having a guest.
yeah.
I'm used to this. Just Kev insulting me has become a daily ritual for me. So it's all right.
I feel like you would feel there would be a hole in your day if I didn't insult you. That's kind of why I keep going now. At this point, it's I don't want to upset you.
It would really be more worry than anything. I wonder about your health.
That's true. I was
feeling okay.
I was nice to you the other day. You did ask if I was okay, so it was yep, that happened. So
Yeah. So
it's weird because Sal.
right tonight.
It's weird because Sal is the mean one.
Steve, shed a little light on this. The truth of the matter is Kevin's the pricky one, and he tries to pretend it's me because I have this grovelly, New York personality. But it's you, pal. You're a low life and a bum.
He's a cactus. Kev is a cactus.
I don't know about cactus. That seems.
Steve says some weird stuff.
Yeah, he does say some weird stuff.
He called me, what did you call me yesterday? A grumpy Gus on Twitter?
He did. Yeah, he did.
You were very grumpy.
I've heard of a
grumpy
Debbie
Gus.
Downer. I've never heard of a grumpy Gus before.
Well, now that's just
yeah.
ridiculous because it came. I'm pretty sure that saying came from your time period in the 20s.
It had to.
I'm going
People
to
aren't-
knock you back into the toilet.
So in case you haven't noticed, there's really not a lot to talk about football-wise. It is the shutdown season for the NFL. There's nothing going on. As we talked about last week, there's no training camps. There's no mini camps. There's nothing. This is the time where you sit and wait and watch and make sure that your players do not get into trouble. That's really all you can hope for at this point in the year.
Good luck, everybody out there in Cincinnati.
It's okay. Joe Mixon is under the wing of Pac-Man Jones, so it'll all be okay.
Nothing to worry about.
Everything's fine. We are going to go through some football tonight, though. We are going to talk football, even though there's not a lot going on. We're going to get into some ADPs. Obviously, there's drafts going on. There's best balls. There's all kinds of things, startups that are supplying some ADP data. So we're going to go through some of that and talk about some of the values that we see and maybe some of the overdrafting that we see, and go through that as a way to give you an idea, if you do have one of these coming up, how you can best prepare yourself. I think we're all pretty clear that Sal has been screwing up all of his best balls already. We've seen this, but we're going to give him a chance to defend himself.
My best balls are the best they can be, sir.
Wow, that's not where we're going. We're just not where we're going. I do want to remind everyone that John Bosch, our good friend of the show, John Bosch, is doing some fantasy eliminator challenges. You can check those out on fantasycares.net. This is a great format. It's a great program. Obviously, the way it works is you can pick I guess we're calling them celebrities. Although we're technically some of the celebrities, so I don't know how loosely that term's being used, but basically you can go on, you can pick a celebrity that you want to play against, and the format, like we talked about last week, is pretty interesting. I think you can basically start any number of any positions you want, and there's 17 team leagues, and you go on and you draft, you pay $10, and half of it goes to charity, half of it will go to the winner. And it's a good time. Definitely check that out, fantasycares.net, or check out John Bosch on Twitter. I believe he is EmpireFF at EmpireFF.
FFL.
FFL. Yes, that's
FFL.
correct.
I always take an opportunity to point out when you're wrong, Kev, and even more so when it's for a good reason. But it's actually more than half goes to charity. The champion takes a smaller cut, and a lot of the champions have already agreed to donate their winnings to charity as well. So it's just a great thing that John Bosch is doing. And like you said about the format, I've never been in a league where you didn't have to start certain positions. I mean, you have an 8-man starting lineup, and you don't have to start a quarterback if you don't want to. You don't have to start a running back and all of that. It makes you think a little bit. So these have been a lot of fun. Recommend everybody joining up for sure.
Yeah, it turns out the New York Jets are following suit. They are not going to start a quarterback this year either.
Oh, that's a good plan. I mean, given what's on the roster, that might help. I see a lot of direct snaps to Matt Forte, Steve. So you'll be in good shape there.
I'm happy about that. Give him one last hurrah.
Hoorah!
Yeah.
All right. So let's start getting through some of these players then, because obviously, if you're doing a draft right now, you're probably are wanting for some information, because there's just not a lot out there going on from updates. Obviously, we went through the draft season, we went through some mini camps and OTAs, and that's kind of where we're at, right? Everything's stagnant, as we mentioned. So the only thing you can do is look at ADPs and sort of plan your drafts and get ready for some value. So Steve had the bright idea, and I'm going to compliment you on this. This is a great idea that we're going to go through round by round here, look at some of the ADPs that we're going to use 444.com, their ADP section, which is usually multiple sites. I think they're only currently using data from 2 right now. And we're going to look at 12-team ADP and sort of go round by round and figure out who we like and who we don't like in each round. We'll do the first round really quick, because I think the top 12 are fairly consistent. But Steve, was there any in that first round that stood out to you as either a buy or a don't buy?
Yeah, like you said, all these first rounders, you're more than happy to take any one of them. The only one that stuck out for me was Michael Thomas at number 12. Sal did point out that he does have a different ADP on a different site, so it might not be the same everywhere. But to see him going 12th overall in front of someone like a T.Y. Hilton is just somebody that I wouldn't feel comfortable taking him in the first round. I understand all the hype around him. I'm not one of those guys that is all in on Michael Thomas this year, but so he's the only one that I would have any type of hesitation on in all of these guys on the first round.
Yeah, and that other site, Steve, had him at 13, so it wasn't like it was a big difference. But I agree with you on Ty. I would definitely not over Ty. I wouldn't take him over Des Bryant. And he's down around Amari Cooper for me in my rankings, but he's going around ahead of Amari Cooper. So yeah, it's the hype is real.
The hype is real. Yeah, I guess it is. It's if he's there at number 12. I'm pulling up his stats real quick here just to kind of take a look at what he did last year. Obviously, we know he had an incredible rookie season. Looks like 15 games, 12 games started, 92 receptions, over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's a pretty solid rookie season. I think we talked about it before last year that, coming out of college, he was a guy that had some talent. I think we all kind of liked him, and then when he got drafted by the Saints, most of us liked the fit. I still wasn't too high on him. I didn't think he was going to come right out of the gates and do this, especially with the talent that was there in New Orleans. I just thought that there was going to be a lot of mouths to feed, but he had an incredible season. I guess I would ask you guys this. Ezekiel is obviously the number one pick, right? In any rookie drafts, if you go back into the rookie drafts from last year, is Thomas up there as a number 2, or is there anyone else that you might pick?
I mean, knowing what you know now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
I think it's pretty easy to put him way up there. I mean, I don't think anybody really expected him to have the season that he did. I know I drafted him in Falafel last year. And after the first couple games that he had, I ended up trading him because I just didn't think it was sustainable. I didn't think that a rookie would come in and have 92 catches and all the other stats that you just read, 9 touchdowns. He finished right behind Brandon Cooks. So to have 2 New Orleans wide receivers finish 8 and 9, I think that's pretty impressive. So yeah, I don't think that you can't diminish what he did last year, but you can't question whether or not you think it's going to continue. And with Brandon Cooks leaving, that does open up a lot of extra targets. And so I'm just a little more hesitant. I'm not ready to spend a first-round pick and probably even a second-round pick on him. I'll let somebody else take that journey, and if I end up being wrong, that's fine. I don't have him ranked terribly low. I just don't think that he's going to be a guy that ends up on many of my teams this year.
I think the other guy that you would possibly go back and put above him might be Jordan Howard. Kevin, he did combine for over 1,600 yards and 7 touchdowns, so 2 less touchdowns. But obviously his output and yardage was more. If it's point per reception, obviously Thomas, gains the value there. But yeah, those would be the 3 guys I think from last year's draft, and maybe Tyreek Hill would get a boost in value. But I think he's affected by Brandon Cooks leaving there. I think that in that role with Brandon Cooks taking pressure away from him, it's gonna hurt him more this year. I love Willie Snead. I've gone on and about Willie Snead, and the cat unfortunately is out of the bag about Willie Snead because he seems to be the darling that everybody's talking about this year. But does he take away enough to make Thomas the same player that he was last year? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sal. I think that I don't know that he's going to be what Brandon Cooks was to this offense. I think they're going to need to replace that. Obviously, they bring in Ted Ginn, who's that speed threat that, I don't think he's going to have quite the season that Cooks did, but I do think that he'll help at least draw some attention. But I do think that they're gonna. I mean, Michael Thomas is going to see the number 1 corner in just about every week, and we'll have to see how he deals with that. I believe he got a lot of that at the end of last year as well, and seems to still do okay. I'm looking at our rankings. We all have him. He's number 17 overall for us. I'm actually the highest on him at 17. You guys both have him at 18. So pretty consistently in the second round there for us, but obviously going in the first round. Sal, any of these first round picks that are jumping out at you, or are you pretty well set with this group?
Yeah, it's the usual suspects, just in whatever order you like them. I've heard some people getting a little bit down on Jordy Nelson. I heard the fantasy hipsters a little down on Jordy Nelson today, but he's a back end of the first round guy. Maybe I'd be looking at a couple of guys ahead of him, but I think we all have him at 6 across the board, Kevin. If you have that open, I think all 3 of us had him ranked the same, and he's going. It's wide receiver 6 in this ADP. So
I'm looking for him right now, and Jordy Nelson is actually at 12 overall for us combined. Steve and I have him at 13. You have him at 14.
Wide receiver. I'm
Nope,
saying wide
nope.
receivers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Overall, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got him at wide receiver 6 for me.
yes.
All three of us have him at wide receiver 6, which is where he's going here. So, he was the only other guy besides Michael Thomas who you'd probably see not go in the first round in some drafts. But the rest of the other 10 guys are, like I said, in whatever order, whoever you prefer out of those top 3 backs, and then the next 3-4 wide receivers, and if you want McCoy over, say, maybe the 3rd or 4th wide receiver, it's preference.
Yep, I tend to agree with you there. All right, let's move around to the second round. And one of the guys that you brought up there, Sal, Jordan Howard, sticks out at me as a guy in the second round I love. I think that this is a great pick in the second round because, look, I think if you can get, in my mind, obviously, the running back position this year is obviously it's the darling position this year, right? Everyone seems to be going running back heavy now, as opposed to it seems to have flipped the switch from a couple of years ago or even last year when everyone was wide receiver heavy. But for me, I've always been a big running back fan, and I've always tried to grab a couple of good running backs. And in this type of draft with this kind of list, looking at it, you can get, if you have Jordan Howard at 2.4. So you're looking at what maybe LaShawn McCoy in the first round, or a maybe one of the big 3 slips if it's guys go wide receiver heavy in the beginning. But for me, if you compare those two up, like LaShawn McCoy and Jordan Howard, and start your team off with that, that's great. So in that early second round, I love grabbing Jordan Howard here. What do you think about that, Sal? I know you're a big Howard guy.
Well, I'm probably a big Howard guy because I got him for a good price over in the Falafel League, right? So I get to keep him, I think, as a 9th round keeper this year. But he was great for me last year. I've heard a lot of complaints about him not being a good pass catching running back, and I did see him do a lot of great things when he did catch the ball last year. So I think he's a 3-down back. I know that they brought in the kid Tariq Cohen to possibly play that role. I don't know that he'll take that role on right away, but yeah, I love Howard there. I have him a slot behind Jay Ajayi in my rankings, I believe. So seeing Ajayi few spots behind him, 2 spots behind him, I'd probably flip-flop them there. But yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's a pretty solid value. I probably have him at 19 overall, not quite at 16.
You and I actually have Ajayi and Howard flipped. You have Ajayi at 7 and Howard at 11. I have them the complete opposite. So, and Steve, as usual, you are right in between with 9 and 10. Ajayi at 9 and Howard at 10. So,
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That does sound about right. Yeah, I like Jordan Howard as a second-round pick this year as well. Much like Sal, I would rather have Jay Ajayi over him. But the guy that stood out to me in the second round is DeMarco Murray. He ended the season as running back 5 last year. He's being drafted as running back 10, which is where I have him drafted for this year, or where I have him ranked. And it doesn't seem like there's much to lose if he is able to do what he did in 2016. The situation hasn't changed much for him. In fact, they've added more weapons. They added Decker and drafted Corey Davis. Their defense got a little bit of an upgrade as well. So there's, other than an injury, if you're trying to predict an injury, there's no reason to think that DeMarco Murray is not going to be able to produce as much, if not more, as he did last year. So I think that he's somebody that you could target in the middle of the second round if that's where you find yourself drafting.
So I'm looking at DeMarco Murray's carries, and that's kind of the thing that scares me a little bit, right? Is obviously he's had nothing close to his 2014 season where he carried the ball almost 400 times, but he did have almost 300 carries last year, which is a little bit concerning. So my only concern with Murray is just that they will work Henry in more, and only because they want to keep him fresh and healthy, not necessarily because he's going to be down or anything like that. I don't think he falls off a cliff. He's 28 years old, like you said. So, but I do worry about the volume being consistent going forward. I also think that last year he, 67 targets and 53 catches. I don't know that that's happening again in Tennessee, particularly when you're talking about all the weapons they brought in from a receiving standpoint. So I would be concerned that he's not going to be used as much in the passing game, and that he's not going to be get as many carries. So for me, that brings him down a little bit. Now, obviously, having said that, I think I still have him in the top 10. I'm right with you at running back 10, so I'm not down on him. Those are the two things that I would highlight as worries, and that's probably why he's slipping towards the end of the second round, in my opinion.
Seems to make sense. And the only person that I have in the second round that I wouldn't be taking is Brandon Cooks, and he is again a wide receiver being drafted at the very end of the second round. I don't think that his current situation, although he's getting a slight upgrade at quarterback from Drew Brees to Tom Brady, not a huge deal there. He is going to a team that has many more options in terms of basically every other position, and you can never legislate the Patriots' usage for all these position players. So I feel that what he did last year is probably what we could expect for a good year for him in this season. He's not Randy Moss, so I don't think he's going to be doing anything like that, and he is somebody that I would not be taking in the second round. If he fell to the third, I would definitely consider it, but not someone I'm taking as my second round pick.
You don't feel that way about DeAndre Hopkins as well? They have him here. He's going at 210. I mean, I know the talent. We've seen it 2 years ago. I know the size, the ability. But what's improved about his quarterback situation this year? You have a very inexperienced Tom Savage and a rookie vying for that spot. I know Osweiler was terrible, but I don't know that this is a guy I'm considering a wide receiver 1. And at wide receiver 11 in this ADP in a 12-team league, they're saying he's a wide receiver 1. I'm not comfortable with him as my wide receiver 1. Not at all.
I mean, 111 catches, 1,521 yards, and 11 touchdowns with Brian Hoyer as your quarterback, I think is what people are looking at, right?
Well, Brian Hoyer has proven that he could do that with a good wide
agreed.
receiver.
I'm not arguing with you there. I'm just saying that is what. But Brian Hoyer is also not a top quarterback, right? So my point is, Hoyer may be able to be better than Osweiler, but I don't think that's that hard. And I certainly am not putting Hoyer in any kind of top category. And yet he had 1,521 yards and 11 touchdowns. I think if you what people are expecting for him is somewhere in between, the 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns that he got last year and the 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns the year before. So that's kind of, and to me that averages out. If you look at somewhere in the middle of the road there, to me that gives you a wide receiver 1. You're talking maybe 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. I'll take that as a wide receiver 1 all day.
Yeah, but I'll have to see that first. I have him. So let's go to PPR in our rankings.
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins.
You have him at 16, right? Yeah.
No, I have him down. I have him at 19.
Interesting. I've got him at 12 in my half-point PPR, and I tend to agree. If I had taken a running back in the first round and I was on the clock and DeAndre Hopkins was there, I probably wouldn't take him as my first wide receiver either. I would probably look for a different position. I'd probably take another running back. I wouldn't want him to be my first wide receiver. If you're employing a different draft strategy and you took a wide receiver in the first round, like an AJ Green or an Odell Beckham or Mike Evans, and you didn't like the running backs that were there, I would have no problem pairing him up with one of those guys if that's the route that you're choosing to take.
So you're telling me you pick, if you're picking 210, let's just assume that, right? Because this is where he is in this ADP. You're picking 210, so that means you picked 1.03. So you got one of the big 3 running backs, and you're not looking at you're going to go elsewhere with the position. You're not looking at a guy like that.
I would I've
with one of the running backs.
ADP, I've got Baldwin ranked ahead of Hopkins, so I would take Baldwin instead.
Yeah, and so does
All
Kevin, right? But he's going a spot behind him. Kevin likes Baldwin better also considerably. Kevin has Baldwin the highest out of all of us. We're going based off this ADP, but
yeah, but Kevin, for me, that's the thing, right? Because where's Baldwin fit in this? So he's in 2.11, I guess. Yeah, all right. Yeah. So I see what you guys are saying, but.
So, Kevin, you're a Patriots fan. Brandon Cooks or DeAndre Hopkins?
I would take DeAndre Hopkins all day.
Yeah, you're smart.
And, the thing about – to go back to your point about Brandon Cooks, Steve, I think that one of the things that we have to remember when we're talking about these ADPs is that this is the leagues that are drafting this data is coming from, right? A lot of it is MFL 10s. And I think we all know that Brandon Cooks, as a best ball player, is much better than as a regular fantasy starter because we know he's going to be boom or bust, right? He's going to win you weeks. So as a best ball player, that's definitely good. So I think that drives up his value. And then the other piece of this is, a lot of these are dynasty drafts, right? So you're also talking about a player that's very young, that's on a team that should have a fairly good offense for a number of years. They're invested in him in at least 2 years. So while this year may not be the best fit for him as far as a second-round pick, could be good value going forward if you're in a dynasty. So those are the two things that I just want to point out and remind everyone. I agree with you on Cooks and your point. I'm just saying from those two perspectives, I can see why his ADP might be a little higher than a typical redraft.
And I would just say, even in a best ball format, why are you going to use a late second-round pick on somebody that you feel could potentially be a bust, have bust weeks for you? It'd be like taking Sammy Watkins, the guy that is very up and down as well. But I absolutely agree with your point. I think that is definitely helping push his value up to where it is right now.
Because the boom is so big, right?
Big boom.
When you're talking about Cooks, you're talking about a huge week. You're talking about 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns kind of weeks, right? And that wins you weeks. And in my mind, when I'm playing best ball, when I'm doing, one of the strategies I will employ is grab a couple of those guys and then fill out my roster later on with guys like, a Jamison Crowder, who's a very consistent, steady guy, so that you'll have those floors so that if Cooks gets you a 0, you got a guy that's getting you at least a few points.
Remember last year when Kevin hated Crowder, Steve?
And boom
Kevin,
goes the dynamite.
You were right. I did have him at 16 on my half point PPR, so I'll make sure I let the crowd know that Kevin got something right today.
That's nice. I appreciate that. Sal, anything else in the second round for you before we move around to the third here?
No, I got a guy off the top in the third round, though.
Go for it.
So
this is your guy.
I've spoken at length about how I think Travis Kelce will be the number 1 tight end this year, and when I go back and look over my projections, there's literally decimal points separating him and Gronk. As I pointed out, I supposedly just to piss Kevin off, but he doesn't really get mad about that stuff.
Nah, I don't care.
Gronk is going at 15 overall, 2.03, which again to me is too high, but I won't even get into that. It's not that he's not worth it. It's just that will he be there? But if you look at this ADP, Travis Kelce is going 3.01, and later in this round, Jordan Reed is going at 3.05. Yes, they deserve to be ranked first, second, and third at tight end, but 3 tight ends going by the middle of the third round is crazy to me. It's not something I think you typically have seen in the past. I know the position has changed and they've become more valuable, and there is a top echelon of guys that give you that every week plug and play, don't worry about it, comfortability. But to me, I think these guys, the hype is too much early on the tight ends, and they're going earlier. I'm expecting this to change by the time the summer moves on and we get closer to the start of the season.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you just said. Jordan Reed is the guy that I wrote down that is someone that I wouldn't be touching in the third round. But most of my steals go for a few guys that were last year in 2016 were being drafted in the first round consistently, and in the middle of the second round to the end of the second round, it's Lamar Miller, Demaryius Thomas, and Allen Robinson. So all of these guys heading into last season had a ton of hype. Lamar Miller going into the new situation in Houston, Allen Robinson coming off of his rookie season in 2015 and how well he did, and then Demaryius Thomas, he has just basically been the most consistent of the 3, and all of their values have just really kind of plummeted into this third round. So you were able to stack them on top of guys that you feel more comfortable with and have this huge potential for upside. So those are the guys that I would definitely be looking for in this round. I tend to not take a tight end early, so I probably won't own Kelce very often if he is going this early, but there seems to be many more options in this third round that I would feel very comfortable with taking that have a lot of upside.
Steve, Demaryius Thomas or DeAndre Hopkins?
I believe I have DeAndre Hopkins ranked 1 spot ahead of Demaryius Thomas.
You are actually incorrect. No, you are incorrect, yeah. Demaryius Thomas, you have 1 spot ahead of DeAndre Hopkins, actually. So
I don't know what rankings you're looking at because I'm looking at my rankings right now.
PPR. PPR, which is what we talked about.
Oh, I'm
Correct.
looking at half PPR.
Remember that time we
we
discussed before the show that we were going to talk about PPR?
Yeah, I really try to not listen to anything that you say.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. But so they're close. I mean, they're very close. Even if in PPR they only flip-flop one spot. I believe I saw a stat on Twitter. I don't remember who from, but Demaryius Thomas is one of the only wide receivers, if not the only wide receiver to have over 1,000 yards receiving in his last 5 seasons. So he is consistent, and he gets the job done year in, year out, no matter who the quarterback is. I like him, and if you're getting him in the 3rd round, I think that's some pretty good value for a number 1 wide receiver.
So, Sal, I want to ask you about Allen Robinson because I'm looking at your rankings in PPR.
Yeah, I have him too low, but go ahead.
Wait, well, yeah, I was going to say, so you have him at 22, but I guess you already know that's too low, so this is going to be an awkward conversation. But what's your deal with Allen Robinson? Are you planning to move him up, or what happened there?
Yeah, I'll definitely be moving him up, and it's, I wanted to ask you this question based on what we just recently talked about, and I'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, I was big on Allen Robinson last year. I drafted him in a lot of places, so maybe it's just like the personal. I was a little annoyed with him directly personal, but we've talked about it, and Matt Harmon was able to bring us together and smooth a few things out, and things are going to be fine. I'll definitely be moving him up. Probably move up to a high-end wide receiver 2 for me. So tell me, why do you think he goes around behind DeAndre Hopkins when last year the conversation was who's the 5th and 6th wide receiver? We had the big 3, and then AJ Green, and then it was DeAndre Hopkins or Allen Robinson or Des Bryant. It was like they were all in that group together. But for some reason, DeAndre Hopkins is holding his value somewhat up in the 2nd round, and Allen Robinson is down in the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that everyone hates Blake Bortles, and for good reason. So, I mean, I understand.
I would take Blake Bortles over anybody on the roster right now. Not long term, but right now this year.
I'm not
anybody on the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I agree with you. I think I would take Blake Bortles. I don't know. I hate Blake Bortles.
Screw you.
But from a fantasy perspective, I agree with you, right? I think Blake Bortles is going to have a better season than either Deshaun Watson or Tom Savage, right? Or the 2 combined even. I think that Bortles is going to have a better fantasy season than those 2. So I agree with you. I actually I'm looking at my stuff. I have Hopkins and Robinson statted out almost, identical. I think I have them both for catches in the 85 to 90 range. I have them for yardages in the 1100s. I have them for touchdown. I have Robinson with 8 touchdowns, Hopkins for 7. So they're very similar. I think it's less than a point that separates them. So for me, and actually T.Y. Hilton's somehow jammed in the middle of them there. So, but for me, it's just. I don't know. I can't answer the question as to why Allen Robinson's, stock has dropped so much more than DeAndre Hopkins, other than the fact I think people are just that down on Bortles, and on top
of Bortleism.
It's Bortleism, and but the other side of that is also they drafted Leonard Fournette at number 4 overall. Everyone expects him to run the ball more and be a more balanced offense. Tom Coughlin's there now, kind of running the show. Doug Marrone's a run-first guy. So you can see the game script of more run-heavy for them. Whereas, they threw the ball a lot and they were behind a lot. We've talked about, I've been made fun of quite a bit on this podcast for saying Jacksonville's defense was much improved last year. I expect it to be even better this year with some other additions and some second-year talent and all of that. So, look, I think that's really it, right? I think that you're looking at more running for Jacksonville. At least that's what people expect, and that's why and Bortleism is why Robinson has dropped more.
And in fairness, we've made fun of you in other places besides this podcast.
Yeah, don't sell us short.
Oh yeah,
it's not exclusive to this forum.
That's right. you guys are great for that. I do appreciate that. It's good to get that out there.
Moving along, dumbass.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. Also, for everybody heading into last year, when we saw that Mike Evans had such a low touchdown total, DeAndre Hopkins only had 4 touchdowns last year. I don't think that is going to happen this year at all. he get at least double that, like Kev had in his projections at least. And they just need to throw him the ball more. I know he had 138 targets, but it was Brock Osweiler throwing the ball, so half of those skipped over to him, and it's going to be a better year for them. And it's debatable. It's debatable on the two, and I just think DeAndre Hopkins has a little more room for growth this season than Allen Robinson does.
Plus, he's got a better nickname. Nicknames get you everything.
They do. They mean a lot.
So here's one that I have, in this round. For me, Alshon Jeffrey, I think is a decent value at the end of the third round, and yet you guys have him in the 40s in your overall rankings, and I'm a little curious about your thoughts on Alshon Jeffrey. Why?
I don't want you to.
Isn't that what we do? Shouldn't we be talking about how you ranked players?
Yeah, I have him ranked 20th overall. So, or not 20th overall.
No, you don't.
Wide receiver.
Yeah,
20th wide receiver. I apologize. 22 in PPR.
Well, so I'm looking at, and again, we're looking at overall, and you have him at what, 43. So you're certainly not putting him in the as high as I am
drafting him in the third round
at 25. Yeah. So
doing it.
So why not?
I think most of it has to do with my lack of confidence in Carson Wentz this year. I am not as much as a believer in him as Sal tends to be. So I think some of it has to do with that. I know reports are that he has not looked as good in OTAs since 2013, which was 4 years ago. So that's cool. Don't think that matters very much. But I don't have a ton of faith in the number one pass catcher. If he ends up being that on the Philadelphia offense, I do think that they want to run the ball more. They will run the ball if they are able to, if game script allows them to do that type of thing. So I'm just not taking the risk on him in the third round. If he drops to the fourth, I definitely will have to look at that and will definitely take him into consideration. I don't hate him. I just would think of him as more as a wide receiver too. And this year, I'm definitely putting much more emphasis on running backs.
Sal, you hate him just as equally, if not more.
I mean, I have him as wide receiver 23, so I have him as low-end wide receiver 2. I like Alshon Jeffrey. I actually defended him a lot last year, and he helped create soft tissue issues. So,
oh, it's been a while.
Wow, yeah, I haven't heard that in a long time. You're rusty. That
like
sounded bad.
Yeah, so me. I gotta wet the beak. Anyway. Yeah, I feel like Shane when it comes to these rankings. I kind of put these down so we have something we could talk about. But I'll change my rankings up. And be honest with you, when I'm drafting, I will not absolutely go according to even my own rankings as Bible. It'll be based on what I feel that week, what I've heard, what situations are going on. And I don't jump in there and update them as often as some of the big guys do. So, I like Alshon. I think he's a wide receiver 2 this year. I don't think he's higher than that. I have him as wide receiver 23. You have him as overall player 25, Kevin. So I think you have him higher than most. And Scott Fish is vomiting in his hat right now.
Yeah, probably a little higher than I should. I should probably knock him down a little bit just because, I statted him out for 16 games, and I think that's probably too much because there's a solid chance he misses a couple games. Yeah, so I probably will knock him down in the coming weeks once I see how camp is going and things like that as well. My guess is he'll be, a few spots down, if not more, in the wide receiver rankings. But I certainly don't think I'm going down as far as you guys are. I look at the career numbers, and he averages 15 yards per reception over his career. He's had some really, really solid seasons, where he's getting good volumes of target. I mean, his 2013 and 2014, obviously you're talking a few years ago now, but where he's getting almost 150 targets, he's catching almost 90 balls, and he's getting 7 and 10 touchdowns respectively. Those are numbers that I could see happening because I don't really trust too much of the other receiving options in Philadelphia because I don't think Torrey Smith is very good anymore, and I don't think that Jordan Matthews is more than a slot player. And I think that, Sproles is good out of the backfield, and Ertz is a good tight end, but he gets hurt a lot as well. So, I mean, they're going to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball to someone. I don't trust their defense to be, keeping them very close in games. I think they're going to be behind a little bit. and I expect that they'll throw. Sal, you expect Carson Wentz to make this massive jump this year, and he's got to throw it to someone.
Yeah, well, I think he has a lot of weapons. So when I have Carson Wentz, I think ranked 15th overall. I don't 16th.
Massive jump. Massive.
I saw you had him ranked at 10th at one point.
Yeah, that never happened. And I can only say that based on laziness. I don't update my rankings, and he's at 16 right now, so I know that didn't happen. I just think he has a lot of weapons, and I have a Jordan Matthews question later when we get up to that, and it might not even gel with my rankings, but I'll bring it up today, and I'm going to have to get on these rankings tomorrow and change them. Yeah, I think Wentz has a nice stable of weapons. I think Alshon will have a nice wide receiver 2 fantasy season. I think that, Torrey Smith will have his occasional big game where he breaks for a couple of big touchdowns. They brought in a couple of young kids, some rookies that have deep threat speed that, if you remember back when McNabb played in Philly, he had like 5 guys and a different one would have a big game every week, and they'd get up and, start pretending they had wrestling belts around. They did that before Aaron Rodgers did, by the way. And so I think it's going to be something like that. The running backs can all catch the ball out of the backfield except for Blount. And got Ertz, and Kevin likes that other guy at tight end for some friggin' reason. So I think it's
listen. Let's go back. Trey Burton, I do not like at tight end. I simply
love him.
I simply
He's got a TB tattoo on his butt. I'm not sure if it's Tom Brady or Trey Burton, but
I simply needed a tight end in Pigs, and that was the only thing I could afford. So, yeah, I don't.
So,
yeah.
For me, I think it's a combination of the players around him and him working hard and him putting the time in and working on correcting his release and putting the time in. I think that Wentz showed signs last year that he could be maybe not an elite quarterback, but maybe that level just below elite in this league. So, I look forward to watching him. I like him a hell of a lot more than I do Goff.
I heard Bortles was working a lot on his release this year too. So
right.
You better give him the same bump.
Getting released for the team. Not. I like those guys. I like Bortles. I like Wentz.
Just to be clear, you're the only one that ranked Trey Burton. Just throwing that out there. Let's move along. I
give the fans what they want.
Kevin is a hypocrite.
yeah. Thank you. Let's move along to the 4th round, Steve. And who jumps out at you? I know who's going to jump out at Sal on this one. So let's start with you.
All right, I'll just go real quick since we've taken up so much time on the 3 rounds that we've talked about so far. I think someone that you can definitely pick up and is going to produce for you in the 4th round is going to be Carlos Hyde. And somebody that I would not be touching at all in the 4th round is Ty Montgomery, being drafted as RB16 right now. Far too high for a guy that I don't even think is going to finish the season as their starting running back. So he is somebody I'm definitely staying away from. And then also Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill, also other guys that I am not going to be drafting in the 4th round.
So, Kevin, since you basically you me out on Marshawn Lynch at 405.
I didn't even say anything. I just said I knew you were going to pick.
Who would you take? Marshawn Lynch, Christian McCaffrey, Ty Montgomery, 1 year this year for your fantasy team?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be Marshawn Lynch because, but in my mind, that's not. I mean, I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be worked in a little slower than most people do. I think he'll have some really good weeks, but I think week to week you're not going to count on him to be very consistent. I think Ty Montgomery. We talked about this off the air. He's just not a guy that I expect too much out of, particularly this season and going forward, especially at running back. But because I think when you draft 3 running backs, I think that you have a problem at running back. So I just don't think that Ty Montgomery is going to have the season that everyone's expecting out of him, and so that leaves Lynch as the best value of the 3, I guess, in my opinion.
All right,
I don't think I'm touching Lynch in the 4th round, by the way. But
let me ask you this, guys, too, as well. Isaiah Crowell, Leonard Fournette, Lynch. Put them in order for this year only.
I'm pretty sure I've got them Lynch or Fournette, Crowell, Lynch.
Yeah, I have him Fournette, Crowell, Lynch as well.
All right, that's how they're going in the ADP here, so you guys are consistent. But I don't think you're reaching for Lynch in a 4. I think in some drafts you are. I think some people are like grabbing him high, but I've seen other drafts where you can get Marshawn Lynch after the wave of running backs have gone, and you could get him and Adrian Peterson as guys towards the wide running back 2, middle to low end running back 2. So, hey, I like him.
Interestingly,
I think he's gonna have a top 12 year. And go ahead, cut me off.
And interestingly enough, in our running back rankings for PPR, we have Fournette, Hyde, Lynch, and Crowell all in a row, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So.
And I don't necessarily disagree with what Sal is saying. If you've already got 2 wide receivers and a running back and you're drafting Lynch in the 4th as your RB2, I don't think that's a bad idea. I would definitely not be avoiding him in that round. I have seen him going in the 2nd round and in the 3rd round. Those are a little bit too high for me. But in the 4th, I think that's about the right spot for him. That is the highest that I would ever consider drafting him this year.
So
yeah, I agree. No 2nd or 3rd round. That's too much.
Yeah, so one of the guys that's in the next round that I just want to ask you guys about in relation to these other ones that we're talking about is Mark Ingram. I know that Steve is sort of more in line with me. I think he's still a top running back. Sal, we've talked about it a little bit. You're higher on Adrian Peterson, so that really knocks down your thoughts of Mark Ingram. But I'm assuming then that means you would take all of these guys ahead of Mark Ingram.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark Ingram's
you're Sal, right?
Mark Ingram's not going to be in my opinion, by middle of the season, he's not going to be a weekly relevant fantasy player.
So according to this, he's going 5.02. You wouldn't touch him in the 5th round.
No, I haven't touched him anywhere. I don't care what he said. No, I haven't drafted him anywhere though. But in all honesty, I have him, I believe, in one dynasty league where I had drafted him last year, and I still have him. But no, he's persona non grata for me this year.
See, these are 2 guys, Carlos Hyde and Mark Ingram, that I think the hate has gone a little too far on them, and I like their value here, just like you do, Steve, in this round. I don't know if you feel the same way about Ingram, but I know you like Hyde, obviously. I just think that that's good value for these 2 guys at that position, particularly if you're a team that started with a couple of wide receivers in the first part of your draft. I think if you get Carlos Hyde and Mark Ingram as your starting running backs, I think you're probably doing okay because your wide receivers are going to be stacked.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I have him as a steal in the 5th round. I think that he even last year, he only had 205 carries. So that's less than all of the running backs ahead of him and less than quite a few of the running backs that are even below him. So I think that he has shown that he can do a lot on not a ton of opportunity. And I just feel like he is going to be the guy this year. I think everybody's written him off because AP has come in there. And I still think that he is a great value, especially in the 5th round. You're taking him as a flex, essentially, at that position if you haven't taken a quarterback or a tight end. And he could even end up as a running back 3 with a ton of upside. I love taking him in the 3rd or in the 5th round. I've got him on a bunch of my teams already.
I think I figured it out. Sal, did you have the other Mark Ingram in fantasy at one point? Is that what the problem is? Did you have the wide receiver?
The guy from the Giants?
Giants, Miami, Green Bay, Philadelphia. You take your pick.
Yeah. Never heard of him.
Yeah. I bet you had him on your team. Maybe he didn't work out so well for you. That's what I'm guessing.
I like, it's a shame because I like Ingram. I'm not trying to badmouth him as a player, and I think if he could go
I've heard you say bad things about his mother.
Yeah, but, you see the things she said about me. That woman is cutthroat, but I think that he moves on after this year from New Orleans, and I think he could still be a successful running back. I just think that Adrian Peterson, we've discussed this already. I don't want to get too deep into it. I think Adrian Peterson is going to grab hold of it and have a really good year, and he's just going to take the bulk of the carries. So I just think that that's the way I see it going.
All right, who else in the 5th round? Oh, go ahead, Steve, because it sounds like you were going to.
saying wrong.
No, he just
wrong. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, Steve. He is wrong.
He's right to be wrong.
He's right. Sal, anybody else in the 5th round that kind of jumps out at you as guys that are good value or guys you should stay away from?
Rest of the 5th round seemed good to me. I have a 6th rounder I'll get into when you guys are ready, but 5th is good.
5th is okay for you. What about your boy Spencer Ware all the way down here at 5.05?
Well, it's fun. I'm glad you did bring that up. I didn't even pay much attention to him at Keith Lott, who writes for We Talk Fantasy, if you go to my Twitter, he put out an article today, and there's a blurb in there about me, Jerry, a blurb.
I'm glad you brought this up. You see why he's glad that you mentioned this.
Self-promotion is Sal's specialty.
The little blurb that he used was me talking about Spencer Ware, and it was a comparison to Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey was going in the third round in the ADP that he was using. And he does great graphs and charts, and it shows the trends from May to now and how these guys have gone up and down. Spencer Ware was going, I believe, in the third round in May, and he's down to the middle of the fifth round now. Spencer Ware was running back 17 last year. I do believe he's going to be the goal line back. If you go back and look over the last 9 years where a running back played 14 or more games in Andy Reid's system, he got 20.4 touches per game, whoever was considered the starter. So Andy Reid has shown that he doesn't like to share the backfield. He likes to have a lead guy. I think that lead guy is Spencer Ware. I think he is able to get at least a high-end RB2 season again. So if you could get him in the fifth round where he's going, I think it's excellent value. So I didn't bring it up because I think he's going in a really good spot, and I don't want to tell anybody. Thanks.
It's good to keep that to yourself. That's definitely, in line with what we're trying to do here.
Oh,
Absolutely. What a benefit to the people.
Look, I agree with you. I think he's a good value here. I know a lot of people are excited about the rookies, shiny new toys and all that, but I just don't think Kareem Hunt's really going to seize the job this year. I think you're right in the fact that Andy Reid likes to have a workhorse. He likes to know who he's giving the ball to week to week. So I completely agree with you on that one. I think it's a good value here. I think people should be paying attention to Spencer Ware. Steve, let's keep going. Let's go into the sixth round. I'm sure there are some sixth round values that you found here.
Yeah, I think getting C.J. Anderson, running back for the Denver Broncos, perennial AFC West winners, who are probably going to be taking that crown over again this year.
Third place last year.
I know everybody might be a little bit worried about Jamal Charles being there and Devontae Booker making a bit of a comeback after last year. But C.J. Anderson is definitely going to be starting this season as the number one running back there. For him to slip into the sixth round, he's being drafted as running back 22. I've got him ranked as running back 17. I think that taking him is definitely has potential to really pay off for you. Some other guys I see there is Jamison Crowder and then Eddie Lacy, and someone that I would not want to be taking in the sixth round is Amir Abdullah. So,
you know what I think's funny, Steve? I think it's really funny that for some reason Adrian Peterson is going to have this huge bounce back season and be incredible and seize hold of these job in the Saints offense that throws the ball a ton. Meanwhile, over in Denver, Jamal Charles is going to do nothing in an offense that runs the ball constantly.
Yeah,
Please,
and I think a lot of that.
Don't compare the physical freak that Adrian Peterson is to that weak human Jamal Charles.
I mean, the tweet just came out 2 days ago that Jamal Charles is ahead of schedule from his last knee surgery. And I said, no, I think he's actually a year behind schedule because he was supposed to come back last year and never saw the field, came back for maybe a game and a half, and was out again for the rest of the year. So
I'm not suggesting Jamal Charles will do anything. That's not my point. My point is that I don't understand why everyone's so high on mostly Sal is so high on Adrian Peterson, and yet
I get you. This is a Sal burn.
Yeah,
it's a Sal burn.
I think you corrected yourself properly because I don't think everybody's high on Adrian Peterson. I think most people you'll find will have Mark Ingram ranked higher. You'll all be wrong, but
speaking of Adrian Peterson. 7th round. Here he is. 7.01 is his average draft position.
I love the value. I love it. They got him going as RB27. I have him as an RB2, so I have him a little bit higher. But I don't care. I'm loving it. Drop, baby.
You're happy with him being your second running back?
Yeah. I would take him as my second running back. Yep, absolutely. I've done that.
I don't think you would. I do not think you would.
Oh, you're wrong about that.
I think he would have drafted
in the 32-team league. He might
before the set. Yeah, exactly.
But that's my point, Steve. I won't have to. So if I'm in a 16-team league like Falafel, yeah, maybe I would have to take him as my number 2. I'm not going to have to, but I'm telling you that if I decided to go 0 RB, which I've done in different best ball drafts and other things already this year, I've taken him as my number 1 and as my number 2 running back. And I've gone with the guys like him and Lynch and even CJ Anderson's a great value at that spot. I think he does have a bounce back year this year. So, yeah, I am comfortable. I believe in AP.
Sal, Frank Gore or Adrian Peterson?
I don't know how I have them ranked. I think I might have them pretty close. But if gun to my head right now, I honestly think that Frank Gore's not going to have, for the first time, one of his Frank Gore type years. So I'll take AP.
You have AP at 20 and Frank Gore at 28 for running backs. Steve, you're pretty close. You have Gore at 23 and AP at 28. And I have Gore at 24 and AP at 45. So
yeah, you're smoking.
yeah, look, I'm gonna move Adrian Peterson up the running back ranks. I think I did that specifically to make a point, but
I think Stephen A. Smith was talking about you and Lamar Odom this week. Smoking crack.
Look, I'll tell you right now, Doug Martin, a guy who's suspended for 3 games to start the season, I would take over Adrian Peterson. So
that's nice. He could carry Adrian's shoes around if he gets bored for those first 4 weeks. You jump out of the 6th round, though, a guy who's going right at 6'12", Pierre Garçon.
Oh, geez. We're going to talk about Garçon again.
We're not going to talk about it too long. He's going as wide receiver 34. Do you know where he finished last year in PPR scoring? What wide receiver rank he was? Top of your head. Come on. Shoot at me.
Nope.
He was number 22. Number 22, a wide receiver 2 in a 12-team league, and he finished 8 spots higher than Jamison Crowder, the guy that everybody seems to think had the better season in Washington last year. So,
hey, you know what the difference is? Jamison Crowder stayed with the good quarterback and the good offense, and Pierre Garçon went to San Francisco.
Here we go. You hate Brian Hoyer. Stop with your Brian Hoyer hate.
I'll tell you what. I'll just interject here for just
Steve,
a second.
go ahead, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
I'm going to interject. 5 games last year during the fantasy football season did Jamison Crowder only see 3 targets, and then in 7 games he saw 5 targets or less. So everyone seems to talk about him as this huge target monster. He seems to be a little bit more of a boom or bust type of guy as well, where there are the games where he has 3 targets, 2 targets, 5, 3, 4, 3, 3, and then he's got some where he's got 10 and 13. But I see almost half of his games where he's got targets that are under 5 targets per game. And, yeah, he might pay off with a few of them with scoring a touchdown, bailing you out a little bit. But as far as consistency goes, we had Bob Lung on last week talking about the consistency guide. I would not be considering Jamison Crowder one of those consistent guys.
So Kirk Cousins threw the ball 606 times last year. And so, while I see what you're saying, yes, I know you love Kirk Cousins. We're all aware of your man love with him.
Oh yeah.
But what has that offense done? That they added Terrell Pryor. I get that, but they lost to Sean Jackson. I think that Crowder is in line for a little bit more work than he did get last year. So I see your point.
Healthy first-round draft pick from last year, Josh Doxson. Anyone?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Raise your hand, Josh.
I like Josh Doxson. We'll see if he makes it through the season. We'll see if he makes it through the training camp. I like Josh Doxson this year, but I still think that Crowder is probably going to get some more targets than he did last year.
Isn't it crazy how the roles are reversed?
And again, it's all about value, Sal. Crowder wasn't a great value last year. Because
you never liked Crowder.
Oh, all right. You know what? We are running very short on time, so I'm going to ask Steve to pick a couple more throughout the rest of the list here that he wants to highlight as good values and maybe 1 or 2 bad values.
Come on, I have a guy too.
Nope, not you.
What are we on? Round 6? We still on round 6?
Anywhere from the rest. Go to anywhere you want because we got 5 minutes left
round
here.
6, so we're going to round 7. Round 7. Frank Gore, like you just mentioned, he is somebody that I would be taking ahead of Adrian Peterson or passing on Adrian Peterson in the 6th to take Frank Gore in the 7th. Danny Woodhead also being drafted in the 7th round is RB30. Kenneth Dixon is suspended for the first 4 weeks in Baltimore, and Danny Woodhead, like everybody has been saying on Twitter, he was sought after. The Ravens went after him as soon as free agency opened up, and they signed him. So I think that he's going to be huge value there. I'm not touching Jameis Winston in the 7th round, even though I'm a big fan of his. And Zach Ertz also being drafted in the 7th. I'm not taking a chance on him there either.
Man, you don't like the Ertz. All right.
Not in the 7th. I like Ertz. I just don't like him that early. I don't take QB and I don't take tight ends early.
And anybody out there who still has the team named It Ertz when I fart, I mean, stop it already. I still see people.
2017.
Steve, let's go beyond the 7th round though. Like I said, we're short on time, so I want to give you want you to get some from the rest of your list in here. So give me a few more.
Through a lot of people. Round 8, I'm not touching Eric Ebron being drafted as tight end 11. I have him ranked in my rankings as tight end 24. As soon as he shows me that he can play a full season of football and produce during that full season, I will consider moving him up in the ranks. But until then,
24. Oh my God, that's awful. 12 and 9 for me and Sal, respectively. By the way,
you have him behind all 3 rookie tight ends, don't you?
I just gotta ask, how's that Kool-Aid taste?
What Kool-Aid?
Guys. Oh, Eric Ebron. Everybody loves Eric Ebron.
It's not even about loving Eric Ebron. It's about everyone else being terrible. I mean, there's just not a lot of value there.
Well, what about Eric Ebron is so great?
I can't even. Zach Miller. You have Zach Miller ahead of Eric Ebron right now.
Well, yeah,
this year? Is Zach Miller playing?
Shut up. Based on current
Kobe Fleener.
Everyone else gets to claim that I don't update my rankings as often as I should.
I used it already.
Me and my tight end ranks.
You a Sterling Shepard lover, have Evan Ingram ahead of him, OJ Howard, Hunter Henry, Julius Thomas. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I'm more confident that all of those guys could play a full season.
Julius Thomas. You're confident Julius Thomas can play a full season over Eric Ebron.
And that's how sad it is. That's how sad that I consider Julius Thomas more as a better health value than Eric Ebron.
I can't even. You're actually fired, Sal. What else do you have for the rest of this?
3 years
this
that
list.
Eric Ebron has been talked about as a tight end prospect. In 3 years, he has done absolutely nothing. Show it to me first, and then I will actually consider you as a borderline, end of the first or tight end 1. I'm not doing it. Doing it.
Man's just starting to percolate.
All right, what else you got, Steve? Any others really quickly?
Jack Doyle in the 9th. Love it. Not touching Dak Prescott in the 9th. Cameron Meredith and LeGarrette Blount in the 10th round. I think those are some pretty good values there.
All right,
so
Sal.
I'll jump in. I know we're pressed for time. Steve and I pretty much only went up to the 10th round each while we were prepping, and Kevin was hanging with his family. For me, 7th round, Theo Riddick, and the reason I point him out at 7-10 is because he's going a round and 6 picks later than Amir Abdullah. Theo Riddick was the 25th overall running back in PPR last year, and he played in only 10 games. There is no reason to believe that Amir Abdullah, who in his only full season averaged 7.6 points per game, will take that receiving role away from Theo Riddick. Riddick is good at it. He gets the job done. He will definitely still continue to receive 5 to 7 targets a game, which is what he was getting when he played last year. Skipping over into the 9th and 10th round, Jordan Matthews is going at 9-11, and Cam Meredith is going at 10-3. Just based on the trajectory of their careers, Meredith finishing at 39 last year, Matthews at 48. I think Meredith trending up is a guy I'd rather take a chance on. I think Matthews' days are numbered in Philly. He's not the number 1 guy anymore. He's listed as wide receiver 3 on the rankings. So I think that you could get better value in waiting on Cam Meredith. Jamal Charles is going to the 10th round. Still too early for me. If he's available, in whatever the last round I am drafting in, maybe I would take him. And guy who I absolutely love, and there is some hesitation as to whether or not he will definitely be the starter or not. Going in the 10th round at 10-5 is Samaje Perine. If this guy gets the starting job in that offense, and you're getting him in the 10th round, major steal. That's all I got, Kevin.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I also agree with Steve on Kenneth Dixon. I think that's a great value in the 11th round. A couple for me really quickly. I think Jason Witten still has a lot of juice left in the tank in the 11th round. I think that's a steal that provides you the opportunity to wait on tight end.
Jason Witten, Eric Ebron.
I personally would take Jason Witten, but it's close. It's very close. I think I have them ranked right next to each other, to be honest with
Witten's
you.
a Hall of Famer. He's one of those guys that no matter how old he gets, he's still
Yeah,
gonna
just so
take
you know, it's not close for me. I'll take Jason Witten.
Other guys that I like, Adam Thielen in the back of the 10th round as well. I think has an opportunity. You know, I think the back of the 10th round at wide receiver 48 is where they have him here. I think that's his floor, right? So I think you get good value. There's a chance you could hit on a big one there. CJ Prosise is a guy that I like. I wish he could stay healthy, but he's decent value there. And we didn't talk about quarterbacks too much, but as always, Tyrod Taylor in the 11th round is a great value for me. So. All right, that's it for our ADP study for the night. I think we will probably revisit this again before the end of the summer, before training camps, because frankly we have nothing else to do, and Sal's not creative. So we will, but for now, we'll get to our final thoughts, Steve.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Falafel House. You can search for us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Falafel House there. And we have consumed another writer for our website, falafelhouse.com. You can go ahead and check that out. We've got content coming out faster than ever right now. And so we are going to keep that up and keep that going all the way up until the start of the season. And then we're going to do even more. So go ahead and check that out. And I think that's all I got. Sal?
Well, while you're on the topic of that, Steve, if you would like to write and you've been interested in possibly getting started in writing for fantasy football, you play the game, you love the game, you think you know the game, well, let's find out. Reach out to us on Twitter at the addresses that Steve put out there. Contact us wherever and let us know if you're interested. We're looking for new people every day. People helped us out by giving us a shot upwards of 2 years ago to get our feet wet doing it. Steve and I have continued to write. Kevin has stopped. That was just for Steve's benefit, Kevin.
I just write for other sites, that's all.
Yes, I know. That one article was great.
It was good. You should check it out.
Anyway,
it's dynastyfootballfactory.com.
We pointed it out last week, and I know Kevin will get to the fantasy care stuff, but just a reminder that if you, Scott Fish points it out all the time, that if you take one entry fee to your home league, to your regular leagues, one entry fee and donate to charity, that will make a huge difference. Kevin?
I like how you're slowly stealing my charity finishing thought there. I like that.
That particular thing that Scott mentions.
As
so
Sal,
why I mentioned it.
As Sal briefly mentioned, I am going to mention fantasycares.net. Definitely go over there and check it out. There are a lot of good things besides the fantasy eliminators that you can do. You can get into some best ball leagues with Scott Fish that could end. You can enter to win a Scott Fish Bowl entry next year. So get in there, and as Scott has mentioned plenty of times, all goes to the kids. Toys for Tots is a great organization. He goes out and buys a lot of toys for a lot of kids, and really makes their holidays nice. So get in there and do that. Also, just want to quickly remind everyone that we are part of the Dynasty Happy Hour. I almost called them DHH, and no one would know what that meant. Dynasty Happy Hour podcast network. There are multiple podcasts, all from ranging in different areas, from Dynasty to redraft to plenty of other things I'm sure that they talk about. And you should check them out. Go to dynastyhappyhour.com, go to the podcast page, and look at all the different podcasts that are a part of the network. And give us some feedback and let us know what you think. Obviously, we are the best one, I think. Right, guys? I think that's clear.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Oh, sorry. Was I not supposed to? I wasn't supposed to say that. But
they got Dynasty Frank now. We got to be careful.
That's true. They do have Dynasty Frank on one of their new redraft pods. So definitely check that out. And until next time, Steve, hit the button.